Hello everyone, we're going to be shooting a video today covering a meme that I see being shared a lot right now on the social media platforms. Don't mind the noise in the background. We're going to shoot the video today in my basement in my little fish room. So sorry for the sounds of the pumps and stuff like that, but couldn't help myself. Had to pick up the phone and shoot this video real quick to give you guys some insight on why I believe you see a difference between the armed white protesters, they call them, who protested in Michigan in the Capitol with their guns raised. Well, not raised, but they had their guns on them. They were bearing their arms at the Capitol. And they were protesting against the lockdown. And there was a totally different response to how the police handled those protesters versus what you're seeing right now happening across the country of America with places like Minneapolis. With all the rioting and the looting and the protesting for George, the black man who got killed by the officer there with his knee in his back. And I see that meme being shared around a lot right now on social media, showing the two photos. You know, obviously the protesters at Michigan in the Capitol bearing their arms, yelling at the people there, the court officials and stuff. And then you see the photo of the black protesters in Minneapolis getting tear gassed and the riot police basically moving in on them. And the meme is like, you know, see how one protester gets treated, and the I guess the message that the meme is trying to put forward to people is that police are racist, and that's why you've seen a different response, that if it's a white guy armed with weapons protesting, he gets left alone, and if black people were to protest in such a manner, they'd be shot on the spot. Now, I've had many debates with people actually this week in Facebook and other social medias about this very topic, and I'm going to explain to you why you see the differences. Well, the differences are very simple. It's because it's how each individual protest handles themselves. So if you look at the protest in Michigan on the Capitol with the protesters bearing arms, yes, they were bearing arms. Yes, it looks scary, but there are a bunch of people there exercising their rights because in that state, they have every right to bear arms. And also, the litigation, nothing in the litigation says that if you're black or white, you have the right to bear arms. You have the right to bear arms no matter what the race is. So if black people showed up that day as well in Michigan and protested the same way, they'd have been left alone. And you can see this throughout the country and other similar protests where black people are able to bear arms and protest and they're left alone. So, but the difference is at that protest in Michigan, the protesters said their piece, they vented their anger, and when all said and was done, they left the building, and the building wasn't looted, the building wasn't destroyed, nobody got assaulted, nobody got attacked. So it's funny, that's right, you have thousands of armed individuals in a Capitol building with ammunition loaded in their weapons, just a few finger pulls away from, you know, chaos and anarchy, like some people would say, and everything went smoothly. No one got hurt, no one got looted, nobody got attacked and beat up or anything like that. So that's why the police handled those protesters that way, because imagine the optics in the media if you've seen the police. Just one second, gotta switch arms here. Just imagine if you've seen the police officers just discriminately opening fire and shooting protesters exercising their rights who are peacefully doing nothing wrong, right? The person who fires first, they got to have a lot of explaining to do. So that's why. Now, if you look at Minneapolis, a lot of people, including myself, we were behind it. Anyone who watches the video knows that, you know, George shouldn't have been killed. I've been railing against police brutality and corruption and all this stuff for over a decade, so it's not new to me. And I was there, well, not there physically, but I was in support of the movement to have the officer charged, to hold police accountable for these actions against people. And the problem where it lost it for me is when obviously all the looting and rioting and stuff like that started. So that's where I think it gets lost for most people, and I think it destroys the image of the movement. And that's why you see the difference in the police response. It has nothing to do with racism. If all those individuals in Minneapolis showed up and their state laws on the books were you have the right to bear arms no matter which skin color you are, and they all went to the local police station or wherever to that officer's house, which I've seen that they were doing, and they were all carrying weapons, and they were all being peaceful, and they were demanding justice, and they were demanding an inquiry and the FBI to look into it and all this other stuff, and the officer to be charged, and nobody got hurt, nobody fired their weapons, and they acted in the same manner in which the people in Michigan protested at the Capitol, you would have seen a totally different response. And if not, I would argue for those people who are saying that they wouldn't had that response, that they would have actually been attacked. If in fact they were attacked, peacefully they are exercising their rights, and the police just roll in and started brutalizing people, then you would have a better leg to stand on to make that argument that, see, when black people protest with weapons, they get attacked versus white people. But we didn't see that. What we've seen was rioting starting, looting starting, burning of buildings down. And then what are the police in that situation going to do? Their hands are kind of tied. They can't... We've seen what happened when the police pulled out of one of the police stations, one of the precincts, and they left it behind because they were overrun. We've seen what happened. They burnt that building to the ground. So the police are left in a position that they can't just not do nothing because it's racist, because, I mean, the whole city will get burnt to the ground. A lot of businesses will get their businesses destroyed. I mean, all these Targets and these Dollaramas and all these places that these people burnt that day, you just burned a bunch of businesses that had employees. I mean, how many people worked at that Target? How many people worked at all these businesses that they burnt in the downtown area? And how many of those people who worked at those businesses were disenfranchised black people? How many people who I've seen they burnt low-income housing, right? So this is going to hurt the black community way worse. Unfortunately, like, it's just a bad situation all the way around. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I want to try to hurry the video along here so I don't waste too much of your time, is as long as people are peaceful, they're exercising their rights. I get the anger, I get that, and there's a time for an offensive approach versus what the defensive approach right now. But, you know, the minute you guys start looting and rioting is when people are going to start steering away from the movement. Now, what I'm going to get into in the next video, which I suggest you subscribe to the channel so you can get that next video, is I do not believe all this looting and rioting and what you're seeing is not have some amount of manipulation at key here, or at foot here. I think that some of it is being not staged. It's not staged because it's happening. There are people looting, rioting, but there are agent provocateurs, I believe, being paid by radical groups to go in there and stir up stuff, to start the looting process, to start the first buildings being burnt down, and then leads to a trickle effect. But I'm going to cover that in the next video, so you stay tuned for that. But back to go back to my main point and to end this video is, it's just optic, guys. This is why Martin Luther King had such success in the 60s and stuff. You know, when you had a black man going into a restaurant, sitting down peacefully eating dinner or drinking from that fountain that only white people supposedly could drink from, that visual image of that officer going in there, ripping that black male out of the restaurant, taking him off that water fountain, you know, pulling the black lady off the bus, you know, it's the visual image of aggression against peacefulness that stirs the people to realize, obviously, the officers are in the wrong. You know, it's when all the looting and rioting starts happening is when that tries to destroy the image of that movement. So my message to those people out there is, stop getting behind and promoting the justification behind the looting. I see it all the time. I'm seeing it right now on social media. There's people justifying it. They're saying, well, listen, these people are pissed off. They're venting. You know, it's not correct. I seen one video that went viral of some young black gentleman saying that, you know, this is just how we express ourselves. We don't know any other difference. It's just vented anger. It may not be right. I get that. I get all of it. Listen, from someone who's been speaking out against police brutality for over a decade, I get it. But the problem is with the police, not with the local communities when you burn their businesses. And then actually, I'm going to give you another video in the future today of a solution to police brutality, how we can actually get rid of the problem that we're facing with the police right now. So stay tuned to all this. But that's why you guys see the differences in reactions from the police. It has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with how the protests handle themselves. So keep that in mind and stay posted for the next video. Stay tuned, subscribe, more to come.